Today on MetCast, we're going to start to take our deep dive into the season. The folks over at MLB Network talk about Bo Bichette moving over from shortstop to third base, plus the folks over at SNY talk about Francisco Lindor. Is this season the ultimate put up or shut up? We're going to talk about it next on MetCast. What's going on, Mets fans? Welcome back to another offseason edition of MetCast. Always, I am Randy. If you're enjoying this content, make sure you smash that like button, become a subscriber, and consider becoming a member below. That's how you get involved in our live streams. We just had one the other night. Awesome. Jim Duquette. I'll link that at the end of this video if you want to check that out. Get a GM's perspective. What it was like to be inside the Edwin Diaz situation and how the Mets approached the offseason. He gives a first-hand account, and it's something that you should listen to if you haven't already. And with that said, there's been a lot of discussion. I'm starting to see these third base rankings all over the place in regard to where Bo Bichette currently stands amongst baseball. And yeah, he's a little bit lower than I thought. I think that the baseball gods are sleeping on what Bo Bichette's going to be able to do at third base. Talk about their transition from short to third. David Wright said it himself, if anyone can do it, he was one of those guys. Bo Bichette can. But I want to give you a chance to take a look at what the folks over at MLB Network have to say. Let's check it out.
You haven't been able to play with Bo Bichette. He's been a shortstop all this time. I've always been a little bigger on Bo Bichette than most at short. So now we'll see where I put him in at third base. But I'm very big on this player.
I am too. And I think he's the most intriguing guy on this list for this year because of the transition. I know
Number 7. A guy that consistently hits 300, OPS in the 800s, pretty much every single year of his entire career except for the year before last. Number 7, I'm guessing they're taking a massive chance that his defense is not going to translate. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be David Wright in his prime or Nolan Arenado at third base. I don't think anybody's saying that, but to give the guy number 7, yeah, he's not a good shortstop, but it's not because of lack of reaction. He's not a crazy rangy player, but you don't need to be that at third base. And let's see what else they have to say.
the defensive metrics are not kind to him at shortstop, but I think shortstops tend to have an easier transition to third. Carlos Correa is moved to third last year. Alex Bregman came up as a shortstop. He had to move to third, ironically, for Correa, and then now Correa's moving. So these guys have a tendency, I think, the arm strength is there. The capability of understanding the angles will be, that learning curve will be much shorter than someone maybe coming from first base or the outfield. I have high hopes. I look at him, when I look at him in this Mets lineup, he hits well in high leverage situations. He hits well with 2 strikes. He's the only guy in the big leagues that had above 300 average on fastballs, off-speed pitches, and breaking ball. Off-speed being split finger and changeup. So he just hits. And I look at a Lindor, Soto, Bichette combo to lead off that lineup. There could be some big numbers put up by Bo Bichette.
About midway through the season, I did a comp between Juan Soto and Bo Bichette. And Bichette was such a better hitter, not a better offensive player. Again, it was...
Yeah, but we also got to take into consideration here, folks. Juan Soto, as we all know, did not get the hottest of starts. And I think that this year is going to be completely different. Let's be honest. Despite Pete Alonso's success last year, nobody feared him. I don't know why. Teams pitched around Soto. Bichette's a guy who's going to put the ball in play and swing and miss a lot less. I think a lot of teams were depending on Pete Alonso's high swing and miss rate from 2024 that they didn't fear him. Bo Bichette is completely different, and you actually are going to have somebody in the 4 hole that's going to be able to protect Bo Bichette. Probably Jorge Polanco, who is a 800 OPS or better from both sides of the plate and 900 from the left side of the plate. I think it's going to be a great right, left through the first 4 in the lineup, and I'm excited about it. Guys that are going to put the ball in play way better than they did the last couple years. Soto
is walking and hitting home runs, but Bichette is hitting singles, doubles, triples. He's hitting over 300 when nobody's hitting 300 anymore. I threw in the opt-outs. because it's kind of a contract year. I mean, he's getting flat out paid, but he can opt out again, and he might want to reestablish his long-term value on the market.
And when you say, BK, that he hits, it's pull side, it's opposite field side. He's the one guy that I think when you look at him, he makes a drastic difference in his stance with 2 strikes. He widens out. He's much more contact, but he slugs the same. Like, he still can drive the ball, especially the opposite field. I think that poses a lot of problems for opposing pitchers.
Some real interesting points there. Listen, Soto, we all know, didn't get out to the hottest of starts, but teams were pitching around him. That's why he had 1 million walks last year. And I'm telling you right now, my hot take, Juan Soto, for the Mets to be as successful as they were midway through last year, 20 plus games over 500, he's going to need to steal a ton of bases this year. Him going the first, being able to steal second base, and having a 300 plus hitter behind him in Bo Bichette, that's going to be the key to this season, because if Jorge Polanco's behind him, switch hitting, it's not as easy to walk around things. Juan Soto's going to need to steal 30 plus bags again, which I think he will, because Richardson departing, I think Soto's ego is pretty big, like all great players. He's not going to want to sit there and say, well, my success was due to the first base coach, not my ability. But with that said, we need to get over and address Francisco Alvarez entering the season. The folks over at SNY just ran a segment. Let's check it out.
Prospect has all the tools. I love his attitude. Keith, you've been around him now for a couple years. What do you like? I can't come on and say this is the year for Alvarez, because I've done that the last couple and disappointed. Where are you at with the expectation?
It's been every single season we've been saying this about Alvarez. It is put up or shut up time. Don't make me run the graphic. Listen, Alvarez is a workhorse. There's no doubt in his work ethic. He had to go down to the minor leagues. And listen, Eric Chavez battling it out with fans down in the comments on Instagram. One of the most ridiculous things that were allowed to go on last year was that Eric Chavez was allowed to battle it out with the fans. I don't understand what the front office was doing with that. Once that started, it should have been squashed, or he should have been shown the door, in my opinion. It was beyond unprofessional how that was handled last year. So we need to learn from that. That was a part of the reason why some people in the press were saying that Carlos Mendoza kind of lost the clubhouse. He spoke to it this offseason, how toxic, or, whatever he put it, was the clubhouse was not good last year. He was brought back. He needs to rule with an iron fist this year, and Juan Soto needs to be right by his side. But Francisco Alvarez could potentially, in my opinion, hold the keys to this entire New York Mets season. If he hits and produces the way he did as a rookie, 25 to 30 home runs, it drastically changes its lineup. But I need to see it before I can believe it, because it was literally going 3+ years ago.
Francisco Alvarez.
So something sneaky about this year with catching is that JP Arencibia is the catching coordinator for the Mets, or he's a catching coach at the big league level, and he's the guy that really helped fix Alvarez when Francisco went down to AAA last year. Remember, he couldn't block a ball in the dirt to save his life. He wasn't throwing guys out, barely hitting. He turned into JD Martinez all of a sudden to start the year last year, went down to AAA, and JP was huge with that. You got to give credit, though, to Francisco Alvarez for making the changes. I've always known him going back to the minor leagues as being a bulldog, being hungry, willing to make whatever changes are necessary, sometimes too many changes. But he's been around long enough now that he's got to prove it.
There's 2 things I love about him. Number one is when he did get sent down and came back up, and he had the gaggle of reporters around him and had to answer questions. He did. And he's like, actually, I needed it. I thought it was really good for me, and I learned a lot, right? So soaking in that moment and not being bitter that he got sent down to the minors. And number 2, he's worked with Hall of Fame pitchers down in the minor leagues like Max Scherzer, guys who are comfortable with him, very good pitchers like working with Francisco Alvarez. And that's got to give him confidence, a little more runway this year. I have excitement, and I have high hopes for him this year.
Yeah, I'm not patient, but it's got to be now.
Really?
Yeah, well, I mean, all right, but I'm learning to be more patient. All right, sometimes they don't have it right away. It doesn't mean that they're a total bust, but this is another year on top of it.
It's a big year.
I feel like it's now or never for Alvarez, at least reaching that full superstar potential that he has.
I could not agree more. A little bit longer of a runway, but it all starts with health. The guy's got to stay healthy. And look, some of it's not his fault. He gets drilled in the hand when he fractures his wrist, and he goes right down to AAA in rehab and gets hit. I believe it was the first game last year. Bad luck for Alvarez. But one thing I'm really interested to see, how much of a leash do the Mets give him in regard to challenging plays? The replay system is here, folks, this year, and it should help teams like ours. The Lindors, the Bichette, the Sotos, even Polanco and Simeon have better eyes in the game. So we'll see how the challenge system works. But for me, listen, Torrens is a very, very viable backup. But for this team to win the division, it's going to take Francisco Alvarez to live up to that number one prospect status. It's year 4 for crying out loud. It's got to happen. Put up or shut up. But guys, let me know what you think. Is Bichette ranked too low at number 7 or too high, maybe, in your opinion? And what is your confidence level this season for Francisco Alvarez going in? Let me know down in the comments. I'll be sure to get back to a ton of you guys. Make sure you like and subscribe if you're still here. I'll catch you in the next one. Let's go, Mets. God bless.